Chained and begging for help, the eyes of the Apache girl pleaded, and a white man fought to free her. The iron chain scraped against the post, loud enough to hear from the road. Cole Hardin pulled his horse to a stop without meaning to. His hands tightened on the reins. Dust was still rolling behind him from 3 miles of hard riding, and the last thing he needed was to stop in a nowhere town called Cutter's Bend with a broken water canteen and less than $4 in his coat pocket. But the sound stopped him cold. He looked left. A young woman was chained to a post outside a trading post at the edge of town, not tied with rope. Chained, iron links around her wrist, padlocked to a thick wooden beam that held up the porch overhang. She was Apache, maybe 17 or 18 years old, wearing a torn cotton dress that someone had put on her as a kind of insult rather than kindness. Her hair was matted with dust. Her feet were bare on the hot ground. She did not cry out. She did not beg with her voice. She looked at Cole with eyes that said everything her mouth was too proud to say. He looked away. He told himself it was not his business. He rode 20 feet down the road and stopped again. The town of Cutter's Bend was not much to look at. One saloon with a busted sign, a dry goods store with boards over one window, a livery at the far end, a few horses tied in the shade. 3 men sat on chairs outside the saloon, watching him the way men watch a stranger when they are bored and looking for something to sharpen their teeth on. A dog lay in the dirt near the well, too hot to even lift its head. On Cole was a cattle drover by trade, or had been until the outfit he worked for folded 6 weeks ago outside of Abilene. He was 31 years old, lean and sun-darkened, with a Winchester in his saddle scabbard and a Colt on his hip that he had not drawn in anger for almost 2 years. He had been riding west with a loose idea about finding work in the New Mexico territory. He had no plan beyond that. No family waiting. No promises made to anyone. He turned his horse around. The 3 men outside the saloon noticed. One of them sat up straighter. Cole rode back to the trading post and stepped down from the saddle. Up close, the girl looked worse. The iron cuff had rubbed the skin of her wrist raw. She watched him approach without moving, without expression, on the way a person watches something they have stopped expecting good things from. Cole crouched so he was not standing over her. He said, "Who put you here?" She said nothing. Her eyes were dark and steady. "Do you speak English?" A pause. Then, small and flat, she said, "Yes." "Who chained you to this post?" Before she could answer, the door of the trading post banged open, and a thick man in a canvas apron stepped out onto the porch. He had a red face and small eyes set too close together, and he looked at Cole the way a man looks at someone touching something that belongs to him. "Get away from her," the man said. Cole stood up slowly. "Why is she chained?" "That is not your concern, friend." "I am not your friend," Cole said. "And I asked you a question." The man's name was Dent Carver, and he ran the trading post and had for 11 years. And in those 11 years, no passing stranger had ever talked to him in that tone in front of his own establishment. His face went a shade darker. "She is a thief," Carver said. "Caught her with her hands in my store. Chain comes off when her people come to pay for what she took." "What did she take?" Carver blinked. He had not expected follow-up questions. "Food," he said after a moment. "Flour, dried meat." Cole looked at the girl. Then he looked back at Carver. "How long has she been out here?" "Since yesterday morning." The sun was past noon now, and the heat off the ground was mean and heavy. Yesterday morning meant something close to 30 hours in the open with no shade, and, by the look of her, no water either. Cole reached into his coat and took out his near-empty wallet. When he counted what he had, $3.60. He held it out toward Carver. Carver stared at the money. Flour and dried meat runs more than that. How much more? $8. Cole put the wallet away. He looked down the road toward the saloon. The three men were no longer sitting. They were standing, watching this exchange with the particular attention of men who had been waiting for entertainment. Cole looked at the girl again. She had not moved. She was watching him with those level, unreadable eyes. And something in the set of her jaw told him she had watched men walk away from her before and had made her peace with it happening again. He pulled his Winchester from the saddle scabbard. Carver took a step back. "Steady," Cole said quietly. He was not pointing the rifle at the man. He held it loose at his side. "I am going to ask you one more time. Take the chain off her." "You are making a very large mistake," Carver said, and his voice had changed. It was quieter now, and there was something behind it. "I make them regular," Cole said. "Take the chain off." Carver did not move. Down the road, one of the three men from the saloon started walking toward them. Cole heard the footsteps and did not turn around. He kept his eyes on Carver and his rifle loose in his right hand, and his breathing slow and even, the way his father had taught him to breathe when something bad was getting ready to happen. The girl looked from Cole to the man walking up behind him. Then she looked back at Cole, and for the first time, something shifted in her face. Not hope exactly. Something more careful than hope. Something that said she was paying close attention to whether this man was real or just another kind of trouble. Cole did not know her name yet. He did not know that she was the daughter of a respected Apache elder, taken from a trading route 2 days ago by men working for someone far worse than Dent Carver. He did not know that the chain on her wrist was the least of what had been planned for her. He only knew that she was a person chained to a post in the sun, and that no one in this town had done anything about it. The footsteps behind him stopped about 10 feet back. "You got business here, stranger?" a voice said. Cole turned around then. Slow. No hurry about it. The man behind him was tall, with a deputy's badge pinned to his shirt and a look on his face like he had already decided how this was going to go. Cole looked at the badge, then at the man's face, then at the chain on the girl's wrist. "Yes," Cole said. "I do." The deputy's name was Lou Pratt, and he had been wearing that badge for going on 3 years, long enough to know which fights were worth having and which ones to let Dent Carver handle himself. This one he had been sent to handle. "Put the rifle down," Pratt said. Cole did not put the rifle down. He did not raise it either. He just stood there between the deputy and the girl with the afternoon sun hammering everything flat and said, "That woman has been chained outside in the heat since yesterday. You are wearing a badge. Why is she still chained?" Pratt's jaw moved slightly. She broke the law. Stealing food is not a hanging offense in any territory I know of. Nobody said anything about hanging. Then what is the plan for her? Pratt looked at Carver. Carver looked at the ground. That small exchange told Cole everything the two men had not said out loud, and the shape of it was ugly. There were men who passed through towns like Cutter's Bend, looking to buy people the same way they bought horses, and there were men in towns like Cutter's Bend willing to sell them. Cole had seen it before, further south, in places where the law was whatever the man with the most money said it was. He had ridden away from it before, telling himself it was not his fight. He was not going to ride away from it this time. He reached into his coat again, not for his wallet, and took out a folded piece of paper, where he unfolded it and held it up toward Pratt. "This is a letter from the United States Land and Property Office in Abilene. It names me as a contracted agent for cattle transit in the New Mexico and Arizona territories. That was technically true, or had been, 6 weeks ago. I'm telling you officially that what I am looking at right now is the unlawful detainment of a person, and that I intend to report it to the federal marshal's office in Santa Fe. None of that was a lie exactly. It was just assembled in a way designed to produce a specific reaction. Pratt stared at the paper. He could not read well, but he could read the government seal at the top, and that seal did something to his confidence the way cold water does to a fire. "You have got no jurisdiction here," Pratt said, but it came out softer than he intended. "I am not claiming jurisdiction," Cole said. "I am claiming intent to report. Those are two different things." He folded the paper and put it away. "Now, I am going to buy this woman's freedom for whatever Carver says the debt is. I do not have $8 on me. I have got this rifle and this handgun and a horse worth considerably more than $8. You pick which one you want as collateral, and I will ride to the next town with a bank, which I believe is Harlow, 15 miles east, and bring back the difference in cash by sundown tomorrow." Silence. A fly landed on the chain near the girl's wrist. She did not flinch. Carver cleared his throat. He was running a calculation behind his eyes. The rifle alone was worth $12 easy. The horse was worth $40. And when there was something about the way Cole had produced that government paper and the way Pratt had gone quiet that told Carver this was not a man who would disappear quietly. "The rifle," Carver said, "and $7 cash by sundown tomorrow." "Done," Cole said. He handed the Winchester to Carver's stock first, then looked at Pratt. Pratt looked at Carver. Carver pulled a key from his apron pocket with the practiced motion of a man who had used it before. He crouched and unlocked the cuff. The girl pulled her wrist in close to her chest. The skin beneath the iron was red and broken. She did not look at Carver. She stood without help, without wobbling, with the kind of straight back that costs something to maintain, and she looked at Cole. "What is your name?" Cole asked. "Kaya," she said, like Cole Hardin. He gestured toward his horse. "Can you ride?" She looked at the horse. "Yes." He helped her up into the saddle, not because she needed the help, but because getting her up and moving before Carver changed his mind was the priority. He took the reins and led the horse up the road on foot, walking at a pace that was not hurried enough to look like running, but was covering ground steadily. Behind him, Pratt and Carver watched. Neither of them called out. Cole did not look back. When they had rounded the bend past the livery and were out of sight of the saloon, he stopped and looked up at Kaya. She was sitting straight in the saddle, one hand pressing the hurt wrist against her ribs, looking at the road ahead. "Are you all right?" he asked. She thought about that for a moment, on the way someone thinks about a question they are not used to being asked in good faith. "No," she said, "but I am better than I was." "I need to get to Harlow by tomorrow sundown," Cole said. "Do you know this country?" She looked at him. "My family's camp is 2 hours north. There is a man there who will help you." "What kind of help?" "The kind you are going to need," Kaya said, "when Carver tells his employer that someone took me." Cole looked back down the road they had come from. Nothing moving yet. "Who is his employer?" Cole asked. Kaya's expression did not change, but something behind her eyes did. "His name is Vic Landon," she said, "and he is the reason I was there in the first place." Cole did not know that name yet. By the time he did, 3 men would already be riding hard to intercept them, and the trouble in Cutter's Bend would turn out to be the smallest piece of something much larger, much more dangerous, and aimed squarely at a group of people who had no one standing between them and the man with the money and the guns. Except, as of this afternoon, one out-of-work cattle drover with no rifle, $4, and a horse he had just put up as collateral. Cole pulled his hat down against the sun and started walking north. The 2 hours Kaya had mentioned turned into 3 because she directed him off the main road after the first mile, down through a dry creek bed and up into the brush-covered hills that most riders would have avoided as impassable. The horse managed it without complaint. Cole managed it with some difficulty, and leading the animal through gaps in the scrub oak, while Kaya watched from the saddle with an expression that was not quite amusement, but was in that direction. The Apache camp was small. 6 structures arranged in a loose circle near a spring that barely qualified as a spring, more of a seep coming up through flat rock. 4 adults. 2 children who stopped what they were doing and stared at Cole with open curiosity that the adults did not permit themselves. A man came out from the largest structure and stopped when he saw Cole. He was older, maybe 60, with a face weathered down to the essential. And he wore his age the way a cliff face wears weather, not weakened by it, but shaped into something harder. Kaya spoke to him in Apache. Whatever she said was not short, and the old man listened without interrupting, on which Cole took as a sign of genuine respect for what she was telling him. When she finished, the old man looked at Cole for a long moment. Then he spoke in English, precise and formal. "My name is Natan. She's my granddaughter." A pause. "You gave your rifle for her?" "Temporarily," Cole said. "I intend to get it back." Natan almost smiled. "Vic Landon does not allow things to be taken back." "Then he and I will have a disagreement." The old man studied him. "Why did you stop?" "In that town, most men ride past." Cole did not have a clean answer for that. He had been asking himself the same question for the last 3 hours. "She looked at me," he said finally. Natan looked at his granddaughter. Kaya was sitting on a flat rock near the spring, letting a younger woman from the camp wrap her wrist in cloth soaked in something that smelled of pine and something else Cole could not name. Her face was forward, not watching this conversation, but her posture said she was hearing every word of it. Natan looked back at Cole. "Sit down," he said. "There is food, and there is something you need to understand about Vic Landon before you go to Harlow." Cole sat. What Natan told him over the next hour rearranged everything Cole had thought this situation was. Vic Landon was not a rancher, or not only that. He ran a land acquisition operation across 4 counties in the Southern Territory, which was a polite way of saying he took land from people who had no legal recourse to stop him. And he used a network of crooked local officials, dishonest land agents, and hired muscle to do it. And the Apache families in this part of the territory had been on a particular parcel of land near the Gila River for 30 years. That land sat directly on a route Landon needed for a cattle operation he was building for a buyer out of Denver. Landon had been pushing the families off by degrees, contaminating the water upstream, running cattle through their crops, buying the local law. When that had not worked fast enough, he had started taking people. Not permanently. Just long enough to make a point, long enough to make their families desperate. Kaya had not been stealing flour. She had been at the trading post to deliver a message to a land agent who was supposed to help the families file a legal claim. Carver had recognized her, sent word to Landon's man in Cutter's Bend, and the chain had been on her wrist within the hour. Cole sat with all of that for a moment. "The land agent," he said. "In Harlow? Is he still there?" Natan hesitated. "We do not know." "Landon's people reach that far?" "Landon's people are in Harlow," Natan said. 3 of them, possibly more by now. Cole thought about his rifle in Carver's hands. He thought about the $7 he had promised to bring back and the horse he had put up as collateral, which meant if he did not return by sundown tomorrow, he would be on foot in territory where Landon's men were already moving. He thought about the government letter in his coat, which had genuinely been issued to him, but was 6 weeks expired. "I need paper," Cole said, "and something to write with." Natan produced both without asking why. Cole wrote 2 letters. The first was to the federal marshal's office in Santa Fe, naming Vic Landon, naming Dent Carver, naming Lou Pratt, and describing what he had witnessed in Cutter's Bend with enough specific detail to make a marshal take notice. The second letter was to a man named Abe Gould, who had been Cole's outfit supervisor in Abilene and who Cole happened to know had a cousin working as a clerk in the territorial governor's office in Prescott. Cole was not sure either letter would arrive in time to matter. But written words had a way of outlasting the people who wrote them. And if things went badly for Cole in Harlow, he wanted something on paper that pointed in the right direction. Natan looked at the letters when Cole folded them. "You know how to do this," the old man said. It was not a compliment exactly, more like an assessment. "I know how to start things," Cole said. "Finishing them is the part I am still working on." Kaya appeared at the edge of his vision. She had changed into different clothes, her wrist wrapped clean, and she was holding his horse's reins. The animal had been watered and fed, which explained where she had gone while he was talking to her grandfather. "I am going with you," she said. Cole started to object. "The land agent's name is Percy Ward," she said. "He knows my face. He does not know yours. And Harlow has 3 streets that all look the same, and if you go asking around for a land agent, Landon's men will hear about it in 10 minutes. She held out the reins. "I know where his office is. I have been there twice. I know the back way in." Cole looked at Natan, and the old man's expression was carefully neutral in the way that meant he had already had this argument with his granddaughter and lost. Cole took the reins. "We leave at first light," he said. "We make Harlow by mid-morning, and we are out before noon. If Percy Ward is not there or not willing to help, we do not linger." Kaya nodded once. Cole looked at the 2 letters in his hand. He gave them to Natan and told him where to send them if Cole and Kaya were not back from Harlow within 2 days. Natan took the letters and held them with both hands, carefully. The way a man holds something he is not sure he trusts, but is not sure he can afford to refuse. The fire that evening was small. The camp was quiet. Somewhere out in the dark, a coyote said something to the hills, and the hills did not answer. Cole sat with his back against a rock and his Colt cleaned and loaded across his knee, watching the direction of Cutter's Bend, and did not sleep much. They reached Harlow as the morning was still cool enough to be bearable, coming in from the west along a dry goods trail that Kaya knew and that kept them off the main road for the last 4 miles. The town was bigger than Cutter's Bend, which was not saying much, but it had a bank, a proper hotel, and a stage depot, which meant enough traffic coming through that 2 riders would not stand out the way they would have in a smaller place. Kaya pulled her hat low. Cole did the same. Percy Ward's office was on the far side of town, past the bank, in a narrow building wedged between a saddle shop and a place that sold mining equipment. Though the sign above the door said Land and Title Records in faded letters. The curtain in the front window was drawn. Kaya dismounted half a block away and handed Cole the reins. "Wait here," she said. Cole did not like that. "I will come with you." She looked at him with the particular patience of someone explaining something to a person who is smart but has a blind spot. 2 people going in together looks like pressure, she said. "I go in alone, I am a girl asking a question. 5 minutes. She walked away before he could respond. Cole stood with both horses in the narrow shade of a building and watched the door of Percy Ward's office and counted the people moving on the street. Most of them were going about normal morning business. A man loading barrels onto a wagon. 2 women coming out of the dry goods store. A boy leading a mule. One man standing at the corner near the stage depot with no apparent reason to be standing there, who had been standing there since Cole and Kaya rode in. Cole watched the man without looking directly at him. He was wearing a brown coat despite the heat. He was not reading anything, not talking to anyone, not waiting for the stage. Just standing. 4 minutes passed. Kaya came back out of Percy Ward's office. Her face was arranged carefully, the way a person arranges their face when they are in public and have just received very bad news. She reached Cole and took her horse's reins and said quietly, "Ward is gone. His clerk says he left 3 days ago, rode out in the middle of the night and did not come back. The clerk is scared." He would not say more. Cole looked at the man in the brown coat, and the man in the brown coat was looking at them. "We need to go," Cole said. They mounted and moved at a walk, because running was an advertisement. Cole kept the walk steady and casual, even though every instinct he had was pulling the other direction. They turned down a side street, then another. Then Kaya said, "Right here," and they went right into a narrow alley that cut through to a back road running parallel to the main street. Behind them, hoofbeats. 1 horse, moving fast. Cole looked back over his shoulder. The man in the brown coat had a horse now, coming out of the alley mouth behind them. Cole said, "Go." They ran. The back road was rutted and uneven, and the horses took it hard. Kaya rode like she had been born to it, leaning forward, her hat gone somewhere in the first 20 yards. Cole stayed close behind her, running the colt out now and in his right hand, looking back every few seconds. The man in the brown coat was gaining. He was on a faster horse. There was a ravine up ahead. Kaya went left along the edge of it, following a path that was barely a path, more of a suggestion between rocks. Cole followed. The man behind them did not slow. Kaya pulled up suddenly behind a rock outcrop, and Cole almost ran into her. She was off her horse before it fully stopped, moving to the edge of the rock and looking back. Cole pulled his horse in behind hers and did the same. The man in the brown coat came around the last bend at full speed. Cole stood up from behind the rock and said, "Stop." The man pulled his horse so hard it nearly sat down. He was younger than Cole had expected, maybe 25, with scared eyes that did not match the aggressive riding. Cole had his colt on him and said, "Hands where I can see them." The man raised his hands. His horse danced sideways. "I am not with Landon," the man said, breathing hard. "I work for Ward, Percy Ward. I have been following you since you left his office because I did not know if you were safe." Silence. Kaya looked at Cole. Cole looked at the man. "Where is Ward?" The young man looked around, the habit of someone used to checking if they are being watched. "He is alive," he said. "Landon's men came for him 3 nights ago. He hid. He is at a farmhouse 7 miles south of here." He paused. "He has the documents, the land claim filings for the families on the Gila. He finished them right before he had to run, and he has been waiting for someone he could trust to take them to the territorial office in Prescott." Cole looked at Kaya again. She was very still, in the way she went still when something important was happening. 7 miles south, Cole said to the young man. "Take us there." The man nodded and turned his horse. Cole looked at Kaya. She was already back in the saddle. "One thing at a time," Cole said, more to himself than to her. She heard it anyway. "The documents first," she said. "Then your rifle." Cole almost laughed. He got back on his horse, and they followed the young man south, into the flat country where the Gila country started to open up, and the sky came down wide and hard and clear. Behind them, Harlow sat quiet in the heat. But not for long. The farmhouse was a low structure with mud brick walls and a roof that had been patched in 3 places with different materials, which gave it a patchwork look from a distance, like it had survived several different kinds of trouble by improvising. A water tank on a wooden frame stood in the back. 2 horses were penned in a small corral beside it, thin but upright. The young man's name turned out to be Henry Cole, no relation, which he mentioned with an awkward half-smile when he introduced himself while they were still on horseback. "Hardin Cole and Henry Cole," he said, which is going to be confusing. Hardin told him to just use last names. Ward was inside. He was a compact man, mid-40s, with ink stains on his fingers that no amount of washing had fully removed, and the look of someone who had been existing on very little sleep and considerable fear for 3 days. He looked at Kaya when she came through the door, and his shoulders dropped about 2 inches with relief. "You are alive?" he said. "You too," she said. He looked at Hardin. "Who is this?" "The reason I am alive," Kaya said. Ward looked at Hardin again with the reassessment of a man updating his initial calculation. He sat down at the farmhouse table and pulled a leather satchel from under the boards of the floor, from a hiding place that had been prepared in advance by someone who had thought this moment was coming. He put the satchel on the table and opened it. Inside were land claim documents, surveyor maps, unsigned affidavits from 12 Apache families on the Gila, and a letter of support from a retired Army surveyor named Horace Bent, who had done the original boundary work in the area and whose name carried weight in the territorial office. Hardin looked at the stack of papers. It was thorough. It was the kind of thorough that took months. "This is enough?" he asked. Ward said, "If it reaches the Territorial Land Office in Prescott before Landon's filing, yes. He has a competing claim going through a corrupt county registrar in Cutter's Bend. If his claim registers first, it legally supersedes everything in this satchel regardless of merit. He has a courier heading to Prescott." Ward looked at the window. "We think that courier left this morning." Hardin looked at Kaya. She was reading the affidavits, her finger tracing names she recognized. "How far is Prescott?" Hardin asked. 2 days riding hard," Ward said. "1 if you change horses and don't stop." Hardin thought about what he had and did not have. No rifle. A Colt with 12 rounds. 1 horse. $4 minus nothing because he had not spent anything since Cutter's Bend. The $7 he owed Carver by sundown today, which he was not going to make. He thought about the letters he had left with Natan. "The letters I sent," he said to Kaya. "How long to reach Santa Fe by the route your grandfather would use?" Kaya thought. 3 days, maybe 4. Too slow. The land filing would be done and buried before Marshall got moving. "The courier heading to Prescott," Hardin said to Ward. "Do you know the route he takes?" Ward went to the wall where a map was tacked. Then he pointed. "The standard route goes up through Copper Fork and across the high plain. It is the fastest horse route." Hardin looked at the map. There was another route, longer by the map lines, but cutting through lower country where the roads were better. "If I go south through the Basin country and pick up the stage road at Willow Creek," Hardin said, pointing, "how does that compare?" Ward squinted. Henry leaned in. Kaya did not look at the map. She was watching Hardin's face. "It is longer," Ward said. "But the stage road from Willow Creek to Prescott is well maintained and stages run it fast." If you caught the noon stage at Willow Creek. What time does the noon stage leave Willow Creek? Ward looked at Henry. Henry said, "Noon." "What time is it now?" Hardin asked. Henry checked his pocket watch. "He's 8:15. Willow Creek was roughly 4 hours riding normally. Hard riding with a good horse, maybe 3. The math was not comfortable, but it was math. Hardin picked up the satchel and slung it over his shoulder. "Wait," Ward said. "You cannot ride into the Territorial Land Office alone. You are not a party to this claim. They will not accept the filing from a stranger without proper representation." Hardin looked at Kaya. Kaya looked at the satchel, then at Hardin. "I can speak for my family," she said. "I am Natan's granddaughter. He has authority over the family claim. In the absence of a formal representative, a direct family member can present documents." "That has never actually been tested in this territory," Ward said carefully. "Then we will test it," Kaya said. She said it the same way she had said everything since Cutter's Bend, which was with a certainty that did not shout and did not flinch and did not ask anyone's permission. Ward looked at Hardin. Hardin looked at Ward. Some kind of understanding passed between two men who had both just watched a young woman make a decision that was going to hold, regardless of what they said. "Go," Ward said. He pulled a folded paper from his coat. "This is my notarized identification as the filing agent. Even if I am not there, it establishes the legitimacy of the claim." He paused. "There is one more thing. Landon has a man inside the Territorial Land Office. His name is Gil Farris. He works the afternoon desk. If you arrive after 2 in the afternoon, route around him. Ask for the clerk's supervisor, a woman named Ada Reyes. She is honest." Hardin took the paper. "You have been planning this for a while." Ward looked at his ink-stained hands. "Long enough to know all the ways it could go wrong." Henry stepped forward. "I am coming with you." Hardin studied him. Young, willing, not a fighter, but nothing either. "Can you ride fast?" "Faster than you'd expect," Henry said. Outside, a sound reached them across the flat ground. Distant, the sound of horses moving not casually. Hardin and Kaya looked at each other. They went out the back, 3 horses in the corral. Ward's 2 1/3 that Henry had come in on. Hardin left his own horse, which was the better animal, for Ward to use in whatever direction was away from here. He told Ward to go north and keep going. Ward picked up the satchel with the second copy of the documents, the backup, and nodded once. He did not make it dramatic. He just nodded, the way a man nods when he has made his peace with the risk he is taking and wants to get on with it. Hardin took one of Ward's horses. Kaya took the other. Henry got back on his own. They went south at full speed into the basin country, the documents against Hardin's ribs inside the satchel, the sun climbing hard in the east, and the noise of Landon's men arriving at the farmhouse somewhere behind them, growing and then fading as the distance opened up and the flat land swallowed the sound. Kaya rode ahead. She knew this country by feel, by the tilt of the ground and the color of the soil, the way water moved and where rocks lay under the dust. She picked the line through the basin without slowing, and Hardin and Henry followed, on trusting her judgment the way you trust a guide who has earned that trust by knowing things you do not. The Willow Creek stage depot appeared on the far edge of the basin at 11:47. The noon stage was being loaded. Hardin pulled the horse to a stop at the depot rail, took the satchel, and looked at Kaya and Henry. "Stage only holds 4 inside," he said. "Buy 3 tickets." He went to the depot window and came back 2 minutes later with 3 tickets and $2.30 left in his pocket. They boarded. The stage pulled out at noon to the minute. Hardin sat with the satchel on his knee and the Colt under his coat and watched the road behind them through the small rear window as Willow Creek grew small and disappeared. Kaya sat across from him, her wrapped wrist resting in her lap. She was looking out the side window at the country moving past, the country her family had lived in for generations, the country someone was trying to take on paper the way it could not be taken by force. Henry had fallen asleep before they cleared the depot yard, which told Hardin something about how long the young man had been running on fear and not enough rest. Hardin looked at Kaya. She felt the look and turned from the window. "When we get to Prescott," he said, "I will need to send a wire to a man in Abilene. And then we are going to find out if Ada Reyes is as honest as Ward says she is." Kaya looked at him steadily. "And after?" Hardin thought about the $7 he owed Carver, the rifle he needed back, the 2 letters moving slowly toward Santa Fe, on the man named Vic Landon, who was now aware that someone was actively working against him. "After," he said, "we find out how much trouble we are actually in." The stage hit a rut and lurched, and Henry woke briefly, looked around, and went back to sleep. Outside, the territory opened wide, and the road to Prescott ran straight toward the afternoon sun, and whatever was waiting at the end of it was coming 1 mile at a time. Hardin kept his hand on the satchel and watched the road. The story was not done, not close to done. But the ground was shifting, and this time, it was shifting in the right direction.